If you want to finish more tracks and improve at the craft, you need to put in more hours, more effort, work harder. At least that's what I believed for years. And even with Radio 1 plays, millions of streams, and editing a music production magazine, I still found the journey so much harder than it should have been. My biggest breakthroughs came from a handful of realizations. Most of them go against advice you hear everywhere, and now I teach hundreds of producers how to finish tracks without the headaches. So to help you avoid the traps I see all the time, here are 7 track finishing mistakes I wish I'd spotted sooner. Oh, and these all build towards the last one, which is the unlock for all the others. Starting with mistake number 1, which cost me more finished tracks than anything else on the list. Drums are so important in electronic music, so I'd start every track by adding breaks, one-shots, ghost notes, getting the groove right, processing. Making drums might take me an hour or 2 or even a whole session. I couldn't see it at the time, but with no context of other sounds around them, I'd make my drums too busy and too dense. I'd overproduce them. And as important as we think drums are, let's be honest, they're really the supporting cast. Most listeners care about the music, vocals, chords, interesting leads, musical parts, or sound design, anything hooky or ear-catching. And yeah, I know genres like techno, D&B, jungle are very drum-led, but beats on their own are just one piece of the puzzle. Otherwise, we'd all be listening to drum loops for fun. Anyway, by the time I'd finished making drums, I'd drained all my creative energy, and those star sounds became an afterthought. The turning point was realizing that starting with the hooky, ear-catching stuff changes how you develop and grow a track. Discover the star and the core message of your track sooner, and you build the right supporting cast to fit the star. Everything fits much faster. So mistake 1 is starting with drums and getting stuck there. Find your idea's centerpiece first, and everything you add afterwards, like drums and synths and everything else, accentuates it rather than getting shoehorned into a groove you can't change. And I know many of you will refuse to give up starting with drums. Everyone does it, everyone loves starting with drums, fair enough. But try this. Add one drum part, then a musical part, then another drum part, then another musical one. Notice how much more connected everything feels when both grow together from the start. And if you want a workflow to help with this, grab my 3-step cheat sheet for working out which sounds should carry a track and which should fit around them, so the important parts actually shine through. It's a free download, I'll put a link below. Okay, mistake number 2 is why I used to hoard a folder full of loops I couldn't finish. Check this out. Up here represents how many new parts you add to your track, and across here represents how long your track is in time or bars. This is what I used to do. I'd work inside a short loop, adding more and more sounds to build up a mini composition. Then only once the loop finally felt full and good enough would I paste it out and arrange it in one big step across. Working like this is why I ended up with so many loops that never became anything, like a hard drive full of fossils, because you get loads of practice at the vertical part, the adding sounds bit, but you miss out on the horizontal part, expanding the loop outwards. And this lack of practice at arranging is how you make blocky, awkward tracks. I call this the Lego effect. I talked about that in this video, which I'll link to below. Anyway, over the years, after developing a more fluid way of working, I now do this. I add a few sounds, then I extend the loop. Then I add a few more sounds with this new context. Then it's time to expand outwards a bit more. And this process starts to look like a staircase, which is why I call this workflow the staircase system. It's not always this neat, it doesn't always happen exactly like this every time, but that's the general shape. A staircase, not an elevator. Adding parts and making the music goes hand in hand with expanding outwards. It's a fluid progression as the idea grows. And this feels so fluid because every sound gets tested in context as soon as it arrives. So it's already doing a job inside the arrangement at the place in the song it's supposed to live, instead of just sounding good in a loop. So mistake 2 is treating making a loop and arrangement as separate stages. Build up and out at the same time, and you never need to worry about getting stuck inside a loop. Remember the staircase system. This kind of shift is why my loop to track workout is helping hundreds of producers finish more tracks more consistently. Find out more at loop2track.com or at the link below. Alright, mistake number 3 gives a name to a music production problem you've probably struggled with. This commenter calls this problem brain-to-door translation. Basically, you hear a sound perfectly in your head, but getting that sound to translate to the real world is impossible. So you're always hunting for that unicorn sound. Because nothing ever quite matches, it stops you from calling your tracks finished. The thing that got me past chasing the sound in my head was a realization. Imagine me flying to the moon and meeting an alien called Nigel. I'm sure Nigel's a lovely guy, but as hard as any of us try to imagine it, I cannot walk outside my front door and fly to the moon. So being able to imagine a crazy sound in your head isn't a promise that it exists or that you should be able to make it. Imagine a guitar riff. We all know what a guitar sounds like. Or think of a detuned sawtooth lead or a white noise sweep. That stuff is fairly easy to make. But in electronic music, the palette is infinite. There's no ceiling on the crazy sounds your brain can invent, and there's no guarantee any of it is achievable. So what should you do instead? Well, I use a very simple feedback loop. I listen, then react, over and over. I try something, then respond to it, then go again. For this track, Dead Climb, I was messing about with sounds and ended up with this. Something happened, so I responded. I then added distortion. Then I listened, made more tweaks, and the process evolved like that. Thinking this up in my head would have been so much harder than just trying stuff, responding to it, and shaping the direction. So mistake 3 is chasing the exact sound you're imagining, because the version in your head will always come out on top. Hopefully one day we'll be able to close our eyes and make the sound in our head appear in our track. Hurry up, Ableton. But until then, aim for something, see what comes out, and then respond to that. Listen, then react. Because the best sounds in your tracks are going to be ones you never thought of. And if you've got a specific production problem or a way of working you swear by, don't leave it stuck in your head. Pop it in a comment below. Alright, mistake number 4 is about a universal musical truth that fell apart in a single session. Back in the 2010s, I took my music very seriously. I believed that the more hours I put into a track, the better it would come out. More time equals higher quality. That makes sense, right? But something happened that shattered that belief. Me and my production partner at the time made a track in one sitting, which is why we named it Daytrip. I knew it needed loads more work and time spent on it, but for some reason we sent it out anyway. And that track that apparently needed loads more work got played on BBC Radio 1's Drum and Bass show. We'd had loads of radio plays and DJ support before that, but nothing that quickly after such a short session. So the equation I'd built my whole approach on just wasn't true. More time spent doesn't guarantee a track will be great. And there are so many famous examples of this. The Beatles cut most of their first album in a 10-hour day. Chic wrote Le Freak in one night. Bowie made Ziggy in a fortnight. You'll hear people say good music takes time. And sometimes it does, but there's no correlation in either direction. You can make something bad quickly or slowly, and you can make something good quickly or slowly. I bet you've overcooked a track. You decided it needed more, so you worked on it and reworked it for hours, and slowly its magic eroded the more you overworked it. So mistake 4 is thinking more time spent on music equals better. Nowadays, I work fast and spread my time evenly across a handful of ideas. Then I let them tell me which ones are worth more time, instead of thinking I need to rack up more hours to make something good. Okay, next, mistake number 5 could be why your tracks lack punch and focus. I used to do the producer equivalent of pouring ketchup on every meal. Every channel was drenched in effects before I'd worked out what the sound was even doing. So my early tracks have this grainy, woolly, washy thing going on purely from too much processing. Now the obvious lesson is use fewer plugins. You've heard that a million times. The more interesting question is why we use so many plugins in the first place. Sometimes it's practical. I'm in a temporary room at the minute and I've had to stop myself reaching for plugins to compensate for not trusting what I'm hearing. But underneath that, I used to have this weird urge to prove something. Piling on plugins was how I convinced myself I was a proper producer, because look at all this stuff I know how to use. And as the editor of a magazine about plugins, it was all too easy to get high off my own supply. The solution for me, aka Rehab, was going plugin cold turkey. Now I'm part of a small team that makes a small number of plugins, and learning those inside out has changed the game. These days, going through projects, I can tell the ones that will sound and mix the best, because the channels have hardly any effects on them, unlike those old Ketchup days. So mistake 5 isn't about how many plugins you use. What hurts is reaching for them without knowing why. So think before you drench your sounds in all that sauce. Okay, now mistake number 6. This one is the most counterintuitive of the lot. Have you ever tried to make a really good track and then been disappointed that it wasn't good? But what about the reverse? Have you ever tried to make something bad or silly, but then been pleasantly surprised by the result? Quality was everything to me. I tried hard to make sure everything I made was good. But then when I made something that didn't feel as good as it should, I was left feeling deflated and frustrated. Back to our day trip track. We weren't trying to make something great. There was no pressure on it at all. We were just messing around, enjoying ourselves, and that's what came out. Whereas the tracks I was pouring months into were the ones I decided were important, and that decision changed how I worked on them. So trying hard to make something good made me careful. I'd stop taking chances. I'd play it safe. I'd go with the thing I knew worked, the sound I'd used before, the structure I was confident in. I protected the track instead of pushing the boundaries. And that's the trap, because the stuff that actually moves you forward, the thing that makes a track better than anything you've done before, means doing stuff you haven't done before. And that carries a risk that it won't pay off. And you can't do that while you're guarding a track you've labelled as important. Looking back, that was me for a long time. I thought I was being ambitious, but I was playing it safe. And the other problem about trying to make good music is that good is completely subjective. You've got no idea what people are going to respond to. So mistake 6 is aiming for great every time. Trying to make something good feels logical, but chasing it too much makes you play it safe. And there's a way out of this, which brings me to mistake number 7, which connects everything else in this video. Nail this and everything else falls into place. Like I said, music was serious business for me. It was the path I chose, so I was going to treat it with the respect it deserved. I bet you feel the same. You care about your music deeply. But looking back, for me, there were long stretches where caring too much meant I wasn't enjoying it at all. It drained me. I'd power through sessions I wasn't getting anything out of, because that's what taking it seriously looked like. And that's the thing I got wrong back then. If you're going to spend a huge chunk of your life doing something, really it should be as enjoyable as you can possibly make it. So deep down, the thing that connects everything comes down to one 3-letter word: fun. Going back to the other mistakes we talked about, when you're having fun, you're not worrying about pleasing other listeners. You're not worrying about playing it safe and trying so hard. You just do it because you enjoy it. So now I go looking for what's actually fun in a session. In the age of the internet, it's all too easy to get caught up in stuff that doesn't matter and deflates the fun that got you into this in the first place. And when working on plugins, I let the same attitude seep through. I'm always asking if plugins feel fun to use, if they spark joy when reaching for them. So mistake 7 is taking all this stuff way too seriously. Don't let the fun go out of it, because fun is the bit that makes everything else possible. So those are the 7 track finishing mistakes it's taken me 20 years to learn and unlearn. Don't spend your best hours on the supporting cast. Build up and out at the same time. Stop chasing the sound in your head. More hours don't make a better track. When using plugins, always know your why. Always aiming for great can hold you back. And most importantly, have fun doing all of this, or none of the rest matters. Now, if you need structure to help you stop looping and start finishing, I've distilled all of this into a streamlined system for going from loop to song in about 60 to 90 minutes. The loop to track workout is getting great results for producers all around the globe. Find out more at looptotrack.com or at the link below. And the stage of taking a loop to a finished track is arguably the most important. That's what makes it feel like an actual record. So if you want to learn from all the mistakes I made doing that, go watch this video right here.